Journey to the Past. Written by Alone in the Rain. Read by kaisicle-podfics. Rating: Teen and Up audiences. No archive warnings apply. Category: Gen. Fandom: My Hero Academia. Additional tags for Class 1A as family. Hurt comfort. References to bullying. Time travel. Every Class 1A student makes an appearance, plus Shinso. Protective Class 1A. Summary. Izuku is 5 years old the first time he's saved by heroes. He's an instant fan of the woman in pink with her cheerful smile and the man with his ice powers and fine-boned features, even if they both refuse to tell him their names. For most of his life, Izuku has been the center of villain attacks, but he has never been injured. Every time, he's saved by bright, unknown heroes who smile at Izuku and ruffle his hair or ply him with hugs, and seem mesmerized by how small he is. Heroes that the rest of the world doesn't believe exist. Time-traveling Class 1A AU. Podficers Notes. Thank you to Alone in the Rain for providing blanket permission to podfic their work and for allowing me to post it to YouTube. In the interest of providing reasonably timed updates, I will be splitting up these chapters into several parts. If you enjoy this story, please don't forget to let the author know through the link to the original work. If you enjoy this podfic, please let me know. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy. Chapter 1, Part 1. Izuku is 5 the first time he's saved by a hero. He has been quirkless for 6 months. Really, he's been quirkless his whole life. Most people, like Kachan, like all the kids in his class, had a quirk laying dormant under their skin, waiting to unfurl, but not Izuku. He never had anything waiting. That part of his DNA was missing. Broken, Kachan said. Izuku was broken. But he hasn't stopped loving heroes. He lives and breathes heroes, remembers them all, but he's never seen these heroes before. Izuku is walking home from school. He doesn't hear the heavy thud of the villain landing on asphalt, but he does feel a hand tap him on the head. His feet lift off and he floats into the air. He flails his arms like a bird. Without gravity's influence, he pinwheels through the air, squealing. The sidewalk ices over. Steam wafts off the sheets of ice. Izuku flaps his hands and turns in a circle in mid-air. There is a man and a woman standing behind him. The man has two-toned hair and stands tall and regal like some kind of prince. The woman wears a pale pink jumpsuit. She has a nice smile. She waves at him, almost giddy, and Izuku waves back. The man commands ice with ease. The woman doesn't look at whatever has the man so focused, so intense. Instead, she keeps smiling at Izuku like he's made her whole day. Izuku spins himself around again and there's a giant villain in the middle of the street. Izuku doesn't recognize him. He knows he's a villain because he has a mean snarl and he's brandishing an even meaner bouquet of knives. The prince-like hero ices him to the ground without moving from his place across the street. When the villain is completely trapped, the woman runs over. She says, "Release!" and Izuku falls out of the air and into her arms. She squeals against his hair. "Oh, you're so cute! And so small!" "You're going to scare him," says the man. "No way!" The woman pulls away from the tight hold just enough to look Izuku in the eyes. "I bet he loves hugs, right? Do you love hugs?" Izuku nods, eyes wide. The woman squeals again and pulls him to her chest. "Put him down," says the man. "You're just jealous. I bet you want to hug him too." "Maybe." Izuku doesn't know what's happening. He's in shock, he thinks. An odd kind of shock. He just saw two heroes take down a villain he hadn't even realized was there. They're here, in person, and not on TV or on YouTube like every other hero fight he's watched on a loop. The heroes are solid and real, and one of them is hugging Izuku tightly. The woman sets him down on the ground, and Izuku grabs her hand to stop her from leaving. "Can I have your autographs? You were so awesome! You jumped in there like, bam, take this, ice! And you grabbed me and floated me up like I weighed nothing. Your quirks are so cool, and I love your costumes, and I've never seen you before, but I'm a fan now." The two stare at him. Izuku digs into his backpack and grabs his exercise book and a blue marker. He holds both up, and then remembers his manners. "Please?" The woman presses her hand against her cheek. Her eyes are wet. The man looks at Izuku like he's trying to stop himself from scooping him up and carrying him away. Izuku lowers his book. An apology is on the tip of his tongue, but the woman jumps forward and yanks the marker out of his hands in her haste to sign his book. The man signs it with the same intensity he had iced over the villain trying to sneak up on Izuku. He looks faintly constipated. Izuku clutches the book to his chest. "Thank you, thank you, thank you! I want to be a hero too one day, even though—" Izuku cuts himself off. In the weeks after he found out he was quirkless, neighbors came up to him and his mom and offered their condolences, like Izuku had been diagnosed with a terminal illness rather than pronounced quirkless. He had never been popular at school, but the kids inched away from him as though he smelt funny. And this woman had hugged him and smiled so widely at him, he doesn't want to see her face drop when she hears that Izuku is quirkless. Something strange flickers over their faces. The man looks constipated again. The woman says, choked, "I think you'd make a great hero." "Don't lose hope," says the man. Izuku runs all the way home, book pressed to his chest. Mum panics when he tells her about the villain that almost attacked him, and says to walk to school with Kachan and some of the other kids in the neighborhood. Izuku promises to, even though Kachan usually just tells him to get lost when he trails after him. Mum also helps him boot up the computer and look up the names of the heroes who saved him. Izuku wants to stock up on their merchandise. Mum would let him. She helps facilitate his love for All Might, and these heroes had personally saved his life after all. With help from Mum, Izuku types in, "floaty hero." Nothing comes up. He tries, "ice hero." Pair heroes. Two-toned hair. Anti-gravity hero. New heroes. Nothing. Lots of heroes have elemental or gravity quirks, but none of them are the heroes Izuku met today. "Are you sure you're remembering correctly?" Mum asks. "Are you sure they didn't give their names? What do their autographs say?" For the first time, Izuku opens up his exercise book. In blue marker, one hero has written, "To my favorite fan, it was wonderful meeting you. Plus Ultra, you can do it." Izuku thinks the woman in pink wrote that. The other note must be from the ice hero. It simply says, "Stay strong." It is signed, "Your friends." There are no names. Izuku knows the two heroes that saved him, even if the world doesn't. He pulls out his hero journal and draws them beside All Might. Izuku applies the lightest of pressure with a pink pencil to capture the woman's pastel costume. "Floaty girl," he calls her. She's his friend, she said so, and it would be rude to keep calling her the Pink Lady. Floaty girl is a great hero name. He calls the other hero Ice Prince, because he's prince-like with his quiet seriousness and handsome face. Izuku pays special attention to the Ice Prince's long hair when he draws him. He makes sure to include the discolored splotch on his face that Mum says is probably a birthmark or scar when Izuku describes it. He doesn't manage to capture the man's fine-boned features no matter how many times he tries. The Ice Prince is much prettier in person. Izuku makes sure to tell Mum that when she looks at his drawings, because for some reason, that seems like an important detail, and she laughs and calls his crush cute. "I don't have a crush," Izuku says, puffing out his cheeks. "They're my friends." "Of course, I understand," Mum says in a way that makes Izuku think she doesn't actually understand at all. The teacher calls the heroes his imaginary friends when she catches him drawing them in class. Her smile is forced when he tells her that they were real, that they had saved him and said he could be a hero. She nods, just once, and tells him to focus on the classwork rather than his imaginary friends. This time, Izuku doesn't correct her. He's getting good at recognizing when people stare at him as though they're looking through him, like he's a pane of glass. That would have been the end of it. Izuku would have continued drawing the cheerful girl and pretty boy until the memory faded and he thought the two heroes really were figments of his imagination. But then, 3 months later, he meets another set of heroes that shouldn't exist. Izuku sees the villain coming. He's walking home from the park by himself. None of the other kids wanted to play with him, so he's going home to watch All Might videos, even though Mum says kids his age shouldn't spend all day shut up in the dark. A hulking villain cracks the footpath under him. His arms are roped with muscle and his face is twisted up into a snarl and saliva drips from his pointed teeth. Izuku screams and stumbles back. A wave of acid cuts through the footpath between them, eating at the cement. The villain stumbles to his feet, but the acid sprays across his back and he howls in pain. A hero in silver jumps on the villain's shoulders and sends shockwaves of electricity coursing down his back. The villain falls to his knees. Tape wraps around the villain, keeping him immobilized on the ground. Every time he tries to rip through the tape and get back up, another pulse of electricity sends him back down again. A woman with pink skin crouches in front of Izuku. "Are you okay?" Izuku pushes himself to his feet. One of the other heroes, a man with lemon-colored hair, says, "Holy shit." The tape hero elbows him in the side. "Language, dude, he's 5. "I'm 5 3/4, Izuku corrects. "That's very grown up." Izuku's shoulders rise up to hide his ears. He knows the acid hero is just trying to be nice. But she waves her hands in the air and puts on a big happy smile and says, "I mean it! That villain is scary and you didn't cry once. This guy cried the first time he faced a villain and he was 15, 10 years older than you." She points at the electricity hero with her thumb. The tape hero snickers. The electricity hero makes a sound like a seagull's squawk. "Hey! Most of the class cried that time. It was really scary." "The point is," says the tape hero, "you're really brave, buddy. Brave kids deserve a reward. Is there anything you want?" All his journals are at home, along with his markers. It's a weekend, so he doesn't have his backpack on him and can't even ask them to sign his school books. Instead, Izuku takes a big gulp of air and says, Do you want to play with me?" He stands with his fists pressed to his sternum and his knees locked straight, the way he stands when he's saying something big and important to Kachan, even though his heart is pounding and his head feels tight because he knows Kachan is more likely to blast him backward than to listen. The heroes don't blast him back. They smile. The lemon-haired hero says, "Hell yeah, little man." The tape hero fiddles with something on his wrist, like a watch, but smoother and without a clock face. "Let me send a message to Traverse so he can collect this the bad guy. Take Mit..." The tape hero cuts himself off again. He looks at Izuku and smiles, but it isn't the easy, happy smile they've been giving him. It looks like it doesn't fit right on his face. "Hey," he says. "What's your name, buddy?" "Oh," says the acid hero. "Good save, man," says the electric hero. "That could have ended badly." "I'm Midoriya Izuku. What are your names?" "I'm Alien Queen," says the acid hero proudly. Izuku blinks. It doesn't seem like a very heroic name. The other heroes look pained. Says the tape hero. "I'm Tape Man. Yeah, Tape Man." The electric hero is silent for a long moment. They stare at him. Izuku can hear the other kids yelling and laughing from the park a few streets away, and for once, he doesn't wish he was there with them, even when he hears the soft sounds of explosions and knows that Kachan is running the Bakugo Hero Agency without him. "Man, come on," Tape Man says eventually, cutting through the silence. "It's not that hard." "It is that hard. I'm bad at coming up with things on the spot." "What about when we had to come up with one?" Alien Queen begins. "I came up with that name years before UA. My brother suggested it." The electric hero scrubs a hand through his hair, making it stick up in the back. How do I come up with another one? How about Electro? Izuku suggests. They all turn to look at him. The electric hero, Electro, snorts with laughter. I think that might actually be a better name than... Okay, sure. Electro it is. Izuku smiles. He doesn't ask why a hero has waited this long to come up with a hero name. Electro said he was bad with coming up with names, after all. They leave Tape Man to watch over the villain. They head into a quiet side street where they won't disturb passing cars, and play right there in the street. Izuku doesn't have his All Might costume with him, but he's played heroes and villains enough times that he doesn't need the outfit to be a hero. Alien Queen and Electro pretend to be villains, and Izuku chases after them. Tape Man returns sometime later, sans the villain, just as Izuku is scaling Electro like a tree and yelling about restoring justice. Electro is shouting at Alien Queen to help him. Alien Queen is bent over laughing on the other side of the street, refusing to help her partner. Tape Man! Electro shouts, and then bursts out laughing. He whispers, Tape Man, to himself, as though the name is the funniest thing he's heard, before smoothing out his features. Tape Man, you have to help me defeat this hero! Tape Man pulls Izuku to his chest. Izuku squeals and tries to flail about in his grip, but Tape Man launches a rope of tape onto the tall apartment building beside them and they rocket up into the air. Izuku clutches at Tape Man, but he can't stop beaming. They soar up and over the street until the entire neighborhood is spread out beneath them. Izuku can see the park Kachan wouldn't let him play at. He can see his school crowning over suburban houses. He can see his own street. Maybe Mum is looking out the window and can see him flying through the air. He waves in the direction of his apartment, just in case. The heroes can't stay forever. They each scoop Izuku into a hug before they leave, and that, on top of the hours spent playing with him, is worth more than any autograph. That night, Izuku sketches the trio in his journal, over and over again until he's sure he has Alien Queen's horns just right, and the zigzag of black in Electro's hair, and Tape Man's bulbous elbows. He Googles the heroes, but, just like Floaty Girl and Ice Prince, he doesn't find anything. According to the internet, Alien Queen, Tape Man, and Electro don't exist. Mum frowns when Izuku tells her about the heroes at breakfast. He thinks she might not believe him, but they were real. Izuku remembers the feel of Electro's leather jacket under his palm. He remembers Alien Queen's burble of acid eating at the pavement. He remembers Tape Man's solid grip around his middle as they soared above the neighborhood. Even if no one believes him, Izuku knows his heroes are real. When Izuku is 6, a truck veers off the road and onto the footpath. It almost hits him, but a man with engines in his legs pulls him clear of the truck. He sets Izuku down gently and then dives into the truck to grab the woman behind the wheel. He cuffs the woman's hands behind her back and secures a muzzle around her mouth. Izuku thinks this is extreme, until the hero pulls his hand away from her face and Izuku sees the holes in his gloves. Acid spit. Are you alright? The hero has a square face and squarer glasses. He's so tall that Izuku has to crane his head back to see him. Is she related to Alien Queen? Izuku asks. She has acid spit and Alien Queen could shoot acid out of her hands, so maybe they're cousins. Alien Queen. The man's mouth thins into a disapproving line. Ah, no. She's definitely not related to Alien Queen. Most people screw their faces up when Izuku talks about Alien Queen, but this hero doesn't. He knows who Alien Queen is. It sounds like he's met her before. Izuku bounces in place. You know Alien Queen? Are you friends? Partners? Do you take down villains together? The hero pushes his glasses up his nose. His armor is in bits and pieces, as though he got dressed in the dark and forgot to pull on half the components. I know her, but I can't talk about her. I'm sorry. Oh, Izuku says. What's your name? I can't tell you that either. Oh, Izuku says again. He stops bouncing. Did you get dressed in the dark? The hero looks down at himself and grimaces. I got dressed in a hurry. The villain attack caught me by surprise. We've been monitoring... Never mind. I'm glad you're all right. The hero agrees to give Izuku an autograph. He signs it, "Your friend," just like Floaty Girl and Ice Prince. He gives Izuku a hug too. It's a good hug. The armor digs into Izuku's stomach and cheek, but the hero is tall and warm and he presses Izuku to his chest as though he's something precious. Izuku is so excited by the run-in with such a great hero that he doesn't pause to think about the runaway truck or the driver that seemed to aim for him specifically. Izuku sketches the hero when he gets home and jots down details about his quirk. Then he Googles him. It's beginning to feel like a routine now. Unlike the other times, though, Izuku manages to find a hero that looks just like the man he ran into. Ingenium, a real pro. He's relatively young, he only graduated from UA 2 years ago. His armor is sleek white and black, and his face is square and his hair blue, but he seems slightly off. Something about him is not quite right. And he has engines in his forearms, not his legs. His hero agency is several hours away from here. Mum frowns at the screen when Izuku shows her. It says he stopped a robbery in Tokyo this morning. That's hours away. He's too far away to have saved you, Izuku. Are you sure you didn't mishear the name? The hero hadn't told Izuku his name. Mum is frowning at him again, her brows pinched together in worry. It's a familiar look. She wears it when he brings up his dream to be a hero. Izuku mumbles, "Yeah, I must have heard wrong." This is something he'll have to figure out himself. Izuku has his head down and he is focused on putting one foot in front of the other. His ribs ache and his arm stings from his elbow to his fingers. Kacchan had spent the summer increasing the range and force of his explosions, and it shows. Hero training, he had called it. If Kacchan spends the next summer furthering his quirk, he may start to do serious damage to Izuku. Permanent damage. Izuku stumbles and almost falls. He shoves that thought away. He has to work on getting home. If he thinks about what happened less than an hour ago, he might break down crying again, and the sun is beginning to set. Mum will be worried. He has to get home. He doesn't notice the villains until he bumps right into one. The man is easily twice his height. He's flanked by 2 others. Strength augmentation quirks, probably. They bare their teeth and flex their arms at him. The street is empty behind him. There's no one coming to his aid. The man to the left eyes Izuku up and down. "You sure this is him? He doesn't look like much." "All the books say he started small. His quirk developed late or something." "He's already all beat up, though. You think he would let people push him around?" "Please," Izuku says, drawing his arms up against his chest. "I don't have any money. I'm just trying to get home." They laugh like Izuku has said something funny. Izuku's instincts are screaming at him to run, but his feet are rooted to the ground. He thinks, this is going to hurt so much more than Kacchan's explosions. They take a step forward, and Izuku stumbles back and collides with someone else. He whirls around. He was alone a few minutes ago, just him and these 3 villains in the empty street turned orange by the setting sun. But now there are 2 more men. One with a smile that shows off his sharp teeth and red hair gelled into spikes, and the other with green grenades strapped to his wrists and a motorbike helmet obscuring his face. "Oh fuck," says the big villain. Grenades launches himself at the group, tackling them to the ground. They skid across the pavement in a sprawl of limbs. Grenades works them over with brutal efficiency. His quirk is nasty. Explosions. Bigger than Kacchan's even. The other man, the red one, crouches down beside Izuku. His smile is kind, even if his teeth are pointy like a shark's. "Are you okay?" "Who are you?" Izuku asks. Red doesn't answer. He's too busy looking Izuku over, expression morphing into something unreadable. "Your arm, your face. What happened?" Izuku hides his scorched arm behind his back. "I'm fine." "I can tell you're not fine, little man." Izuku looks back at grenades. Explosions aren't a common quirk, but it's not unheard of. His quirk is so much more powerful than Kacchan's. It's frightening and beautiful all at once. Why hasn't he heard of this hero? Izuku assumes he's a hero anyway. He's been cataloging heroes for years. If he came across a hero with a quirk similar to Kachan's, he would have recorded it, and Kachan would probably go on and on about a hero if they had a quirk like his, loud enough for the entire class to hear, either because it proved his quirk is suited to heroics, or because it would annoy him to have an existing hero out there with a similar quirk. He'd think they were copying him or showing him up, even if Kachan was born after them. You should get that treated, Red says, trying to peer at Izuku's injured arm. Are you heroes? Izuku asks. Red freezes. It's a simple question, isn't it? Unless these two are vigilantes. That would explain the helmet Grenades is wearing, the one that hides his identity and makes him look like a bobblehead. Yes, Red says, scratching at the back of his head. We will be? Yes, yeah, we're heroes. You will be? Izuku echoes. You said too much, you idiot. Grenades has finished tying up the villains. His voice is deep and gruff, muffled by the helmet. We're heroes. End of story. This whole thing has got me all flustered, dude, Red says, standing up. He's tall, almost the same height as Grenades, but some of that might be from his hair. Look at him. Grenades does. Izuku shrinks back. He can't see Grenades' eyes, or even his face, but he can feel his gaze like a physical weight. You're hurt, Grenades says. It's not a question. Someone did that to you. It's nothing, Izuku says. You don't need to worry or anything. I'm fine. I'm handling everything. He's wrong, Grenades says. He's wrong, and one day he's going to realize that, and he'll never touch you again. He couldn't, even if he wanted to. Pardon? Izuku says in a small voice. He'll be sorry, Grenades says. He'll be so fucking sorry. You said he, Izuku says. Do you know? I guessed. Grenades stalks away, back to the unconscious villains. The setting sun glances off his helmet. He looks strange and dreamlike, bathed in orange light. The entire street looks unreal. Maybe Kachan shoved him too hard and he hit his head on the way down. Can you get home by yourself? Red asks. Yes, Izuku says. Red ruffles his hair, and even though it jostles the bruise on the back of his head, Izuku leans into the touch. Red's palm is warm and scratchy. Solid. Real. Get yourself looked at, Red says. And remember that one day, careful, Grenades warns in a low rumble. You're telling me to be careful, after what you just said? Grenades goes quiet, turning his back on them. Red scrunches up his face like he's thinking hard. It gets better, Red finally settles on. He scrubs his hands through Izuku's hair again. Izuku closes his eyes and Red does it again. Izuku wants to stay there all night. When he opens his eyes again, Red is watching him with an unreadable expression, and Grenades is hovering behind him, his hands clenched into fists. Grenades is staring at him again. Izuku flinches back in surprise. Grenades stumbles away like Izuku is the frightening one. Sorry, Izuku says, even though he's not sure what he has to be sorry for. The line of Grenades' body is tense. It hurts to look at. Don't apologize, Grenades says. Sorry, Izuku says and then realizes his mistake. This is kind of painful to watch, Red says, but he's smiling. Sorry, Izuku says again. The two heroes stare at him. Oh, we should get going, Grenades says. Red nods and heads over to the trussed-up villains. His back is broad and textured strangely, faint lines running down his skin like the bark of a tree. Does it have something to do with his quirk? Izuku hadn't seen his quirk. He wonders why Red is here if Grenades is capable of handling so many villains by himself. He casts another glance at Grenades. The stiff posture tells him everything. Grenades is anxious about something. Red, with his kind smile and warm hands scrubbing easily through hair, is there to keep his partner steady. Thank you, Izuku tells Grenades, for saving me. Don't thank me, Grenades says. Izuku wrinkles his nose. No apologies and now no thank yous? Who is this hero? Grenades hesitates, and then he reaches out, like he's afraid Izuku will bite his hand off, and ruffles his hair like Red did. His glove is uncomfortable in his curls, and he isn't as gentle as Red, but it's nice. Wait, Izuku says. What are your names? Can I have your autograph? He turns around, looking for some place that might have paper, someone on the street he could borrow a pen from, but there's no one around. When Izuku turns back around, both heroes and the unconscious villains are gone, as though they'd never been there at all. A villain floods the neighborhood park, half submerging the bushland. If Izuku was standing upright, the muddy water would only reach his belly button, but the villain keeps him down, holds his legs flat against the earth, even as Izuku squirms and claws at her hands. The villain has gills on her neck. She smiles at him when he opens his mouth to scream and only bubbles come out. The water is murky and littered with tree parts and neighborhood debris, rubbish and spare shoes and long, sharp sticks. Izuku can barely make out the villain's face through the dirty water. The hero that wrestles him free of the villain is just a blur of green. Izuku breaches the surface and sucks in air. His whole body is shaking. If it weren't for the hero, her tongue secured around his waist, keeping him steady, he would have toppled back under the water. Are you alright, Ribbit? Izuku squints at her through sore eyes. What happened? A villain attack. You're safe now, though. My partner is taking care of it. The hero is frog-themed. Her costume is designed to match her quirk, assumedly. It's friendly, the kind of happy yellow and green that Izuku would instinctively trust if he saw her out on patrol. She tilts her head to one side and taps her finger against her mouth, watching him with big eyes. You're very cute, she says. Izuku squeaks and flails back. This time he does fall back into the water. She hauls him back onto the tree branch easily and holds him a bit tighter. What? I'm not. What? And the same as ever. She's smiling. Is she laughing at him? I like being truthful, and the truth is you make a cute kid. Stop! Izuku buries his wet face in his hands. His cheeks are burning. Mum said something about wet hair making you sick. Is Izuku already developing a fever? Alright, I'll stop. She looks over his shoulder. She's almost done. Are you okay now? Izuku nods, yes. He pushes his wet fringe out of his face. Thank you for saving me. Can I ask what your name is? Froppy. Froppy! Izuku bounces in place. The tree branch bounces with him, making the entire tree shake. That's a really cool hero name. Thank you for telling me. Could I get your autograph too? I don't think we'll have time, Froppy says. But I'll give you my autograph one day, Ribbit. Izuku doesn't quite understand what one day means, but she didn't tell him no, so he's happy. All done. Izuku whirls around with such force that he almost falls out of the tree, even with Froppy's support. He can't breathe. There's no water in his lungs, no villains near him, but he can't breathe because there, wading through the waist-high water, her suit as pink and her smile as bright as he remembers, is Floaty Girl. Floaty Girl stops in the middle of the clearing. I didn't want to just stash him somewhere and then leave him. Froppy gestures at Izuku, but he's too busy staring at Floaty Girl with stars in his eyes to notice. He's too cute, Ribbit. Hey there, Floaty Girl says to Izuku in a soft, private tone. Izuku presses his hands to his cheeks, suddenly shy. In a small voice, he says, Hi. I was wrong, says Froppy. This is too cute. You're both too cute. It's hard to tell beneath her pink visor, but he thinks Floaty Girl is blushing. Oh, Izuku says. Are you two girlfriends? Or maybe wives? Are they old enough to be married? Married hero pairs aren't very common, but they exist, like the water horse heroes. Izuku has always admired those kinds of heroes. Froppy drops him. Water splashes over Izuku's head and douses his curls once more. Izuku splutters and tries to get his feet under him. Floaty Girl helps him stand. Froppy says, I'm sorry, Izuku. You surprised me. Izuku takes in Floaty Girl's deep blush and says, I embarrassed you. No, you didn't, Floaty Girl says. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed at all. Izuku coughs up the water he accidentally swallowed. Once he has his breath back, he jerks upright and points at Froppy. Wait, you called me Izuku. Oh dear, Froppy says. Floaty Girl is flailing about in the water. Izuku can't tell if she's still embarrassed at being called Froppy's wife, or if she is panicked at this revelation. Alien Queen told me your name, Froppy says. I recognized your freckles and green hair, Ribbit. Alien Queen remembers me? Izuku asks. Of course she does, Floaty Girl says. I remember you too, even if you've gotten taller since we first met. You did? Izuku asks. Floaty Girl's smile is as wide and cheerful as he remembers. It's like All Might's smile. It puts something warm and ticklish in his stomach, like he's swallowed a fistful of flower buds that are blossoming under his skin. Of course. We're friends, aren't we? Izuku jumps at Floaty Girl. She laughs and scoops him up under the arms and spins him around. They're both wet and their hair drips into their eyes, and Froppy is watching from up above, but Izuku thinks he's never been this happy in his life. So are you married to Froppy? Izuku asks when Floaty Girl puts him down. Floaty Girl doesn't answer. Instead, she turns to Froppy and says, Froppy? What? Froppy says. Why shouldn't he know our names? We'll leave soon and it won't matter. Floaty Girl frowns. The others aren't going to like it. You're leaving? Izuku asks. Izuku's wet fringe drips into his eyes. Floaty Girl pushes it off his forehead. The touch of her hands reminds him of red. Tears prick at his eyes. He wishes he could see his friends more often. You'll see us again, Floaty Girl says. I know for a fact you will. How? Izuku asks. How do you know? Floaty Girl kneels down in the dirty water and crushes Izuku to her chest. I just do. Be strong, Izuku. Izuku hugs back. I'll miss you. I'll miss you too. Izuku uses his allowance to buy a stack of notebooks and fresh-colored pencils. He dedicates his original notebook, the one with the rough sketches from when he met the first 9 heroes, as his identification notebook. In here, he writes down dates and names. He draws the heroes who have saved him. With the new colored pencils, he meticulously colors in their costumes. It takes him several test runs on a spare sheet of printer paper to find the shade that matches his memories. The second notebook is his theory notebook. There's so much to unpack. On the first page, he writes down all the questions he has. Why have there been so many villain attacks recently? Why does no one else recognize these heroes? Why is there no information about them online? Why won't some of them tell me their real names? He will come up with more questions later, he's sure. For now, he brainstorms rough theories and makes notes. After an hour, he flips back to the first page and adds, How can I meet them again? End of Chapter 1, Part 1. Podficker's Notes. Music is Go Not Gently and Go Not Gently Redux. Creative Commons music by Jason Shaw on audionautics.com. A thank you to them for providing their music royalty-free through the Creative Commons license. I am really excited to podfic this work because it's one of those that just reading it the first time I fell in love. It's such a fun premise, and the execution is stellar. I love how real all the characters feel. How true to life, well, not to life, but to canon they all seem. Let me know what stands out to you. Thanks for joining.